Hello everyone, welcome back to Base Damage, hope you're all doing well. Today we're going to be taking a look at an update that Bushi has made to Weiss, and that is simply I say simply, but we're going to have, as you see Unlimited tab works up here, we do have a interesting little thing to discuss today. It is an update to a keyword ability, not like there's that many in Weiss, but we will discuss that in a moment as well. But specifically pertaining to the bond abilities and how they function. And I do want to go over both the example that they gave as well as kind of some other cards in Weiss that have either similar effects and whatnot. Just things that I wanted to kind of talk about and put my opinions and thoughts out there. So what is the update? So they changed the activation conditions for the keyword ability Bond, and what it was previously was Bond is only activated when the card is played directly from your hand. Now the updated thing is Bond ability is activated when the card is placed on stage from your hand by placing it or by playing it, or it's placed on stage from your hand via a card ability. So this is going to involve several steps here. So the first thing we need to discuss for this, for anyone who just wanted to know the update, cool, it's on their Twitter. By all means, go check it out. It's also an amendum to where I found this on the Weiss News section of the Base Damage Discord. There was a little bit of an addition to this. It says it does not include the one-turn tag ruling that got added at the same time in the Japanese update. It was basically stating where certain once-per-turn effects you could activate later or something. Basically, that ruling does not fall under does not affect this in any shape, form, or fashion. Just a little bit of a addition to that. So, Bond. First off, we're talking about a keyword that has been around for a hot minute. And when I say hot minute, I mean all the way back to fucking SAO. SAO that came out, 2012, 2013, something like that, the first set. And yes, I had to get a picture of the re-edit version, so this is that same card and everything. But the original version, the picture that I tried to bring up was so blurry you could not read it. But let's take a look at this where it says, and we're going to talk about more stuff, but I'm just saying, we're looking at the wording. When this is played and placed on stage, you may pay cost, which is the one stock, and if you do, you can grab back Asuna changes clothes in waiting room. That's just the specific thing here, and return it to hand. So the wording is played and placed on stage. It has that and placed on stage thing because it's kind of funky. Now, keep that in the back of your mind. The exact card that they used for their example, I know my head's covering their little graph here on the right hand side, but I will walk you through it on my own. The specific card they're saying is if you were to take this card, New World Modernia, its first effect says when it's placed on stage from hand, choose up to one character with a level equal to or lower than your level in your hand and put it on any position of your stage, and that character gets a buff until end of turn. Okay, so typically what you would do is you would summon other level 3s with this. Let's just go ahead and address that outright. It typically would be something that you use to summon extra level 3s with this first effect. But you can summon, if I can find it, you can summon other cards from your hand. And in particular, Coin Rush Poster Girl Blanc has a bond effect with a specific noir. When this is played and placed on stage, you can pay the cost. Same exact wording as do math, Billy. If we're going based off of, I'm going to say 2013, just so it's a little bit more recent. 12-year-old wording. This is an effect, a keyword effect that is. Hold on, am I doing that math right? Today, this is the year 2025. Yeah, 12 to 13-year-old effect. An exact wording of that same effect. Just saying. It's the same thing from back then. So this has come up where somehow, and I here's the thing, I don't understand how this could be misconstrued, but previously before it was ruled that if you did this exact thing, that if you summon this level 0 off of this New World Modernia, or maybe another set had a similar effect. Forgive me for not knowing every single Japanese set off the top of my mind. But I also don't think this has ever come up in anything in English either, at least nothing that I personally remember. This I don't feel this should have been like an issue. But the way this was ruled was you could not use this bond effect, which we're going to come back to the noir. But see, in my brain, it always worked because then you would have other cards like this, like the Alice. Say if you use the New World Modernia, I have a limited tab works going on, forgive me, and you summon something like either the Pure Love Modernia that heals from Anika character from clock to the bottom of your deck, or you had this particular Alice that says when it's placed on stage from your hand, you could pay a cost to heal, return the top card of your clock to your hand, right? Right. So, to me, this was like always, like these two things were synonymous. So I was actually completely unaware that this was a ruling that mattered? Question mark. Reason being, by this exact wording, here's the messed up part. Well, like I says, when it is placed on stage from your hand, and forgive me, this is the best quality that I can like really show right now. But the second effect is a bond. The first effect says when this card is placed on stage from hand, you can put a copy of that noir underneath her as a marker to search your deck for a Nikke character. It's basically two effects that can go off at the same exact time. You just choose the order of them, right? But they're ruled completely differently. That doesn't make sense in my brain. If you had told, like if someone else, like, and the way that this is worded wouldn't like really be brought up in my mind. I can't imagine someone having to rule shark over something like this. But let's also look at keywords as a whole. So bond specifically, if we look at this, is grabbing back a noir from the waiting room. And so did the Kirito. It grabbed back a specific asana from the waiting room. We do have cards like this, a similar effect that grabs a specific named card. This Fuso, everybody who knows cats, I know you're being triggered right now, I'm sorry. When it's placed on stage from hand, you can put a Kansen character from hand to waiting room. And if you do, search your deck for a Yamashiro, a specific named card. Just like this is grabbing a specific named card. The difference being this grabs from waiting room. Bond cards like this will grab from waiting room. Whereas a lot of cards like this will search the deck and add them to hand. So like, it's kind of weird that it makes that distinction that this is not a quote-unquote a keyword effect, which we'll talk about in a moment. But the bond effect is considered like a keyword effect that needs a specific ruling. It feels really weird. So let's look at keywords. We're going to pull up this Tia right here, Sugary Desserts Tia, and with her Climax combo, she gets a whole bunch of effects. But one of the specific effects that she gets doesn't get explained up here. Keyword effects go back in like Magic the Gathering. For anyone who knows Magic the Gathering, there's a lot of cards that'll say, well, it'll just have one or two words up there, and that explains everything that the card does. And those words will be like single words like haste, flying, lifelink, which is a one word, which is like it sounds like two words in that, but it is a one word thing. But every player knows in Magic the Gathering, everyone knows what haste does. Everyone knows what flying does. Everyone knows what lifelink does. Repeat process for a lot of effects. Great performance in Weiss does a very specific thing. And typically it's written out. For those who don't know what great performance is, if this Tia is in the middle position of your center stage, icon words, and she's not reversed, it forces your opponent to have to frontal attack this particular character regardless of what position of the stage they're on, even if they're to the left and right, even if they're not directly facing her. It forces them to attack her, and it forces it to become a frontal attack no matter what. So you can't side her, basically. So why are we bringing this up? In Weiss has only ever had a few number of keyword effects. And forgive me for not remembering all of them off the top of my head. Honestly, when you say keyword effects, great performance right here is the first thing that I think of. I honestly forget about Bond half the time, but there is also Accelerate. But even Accelerate, so in Magic, flying, and to my knowledge, those keywords have not been changed in 20 plus years. Like at least the first iterations of ones like haste and all that stuff. a lot of those haven't ever been changed. The cost or anything pertaining to them has not been changed, ever. But then you take a look at, say, accelerate, which would be considered like a keyword term in Weiss, has multiple different costs. Most of the time with accelerate, it typically, and also timings, most of the time it'll say, like, deal yourself a damage from the top of the deck. At least that's what I remember. If we're going back to, like, SAO days, I remember a bunch of Liz cards that were like, accelerate, deal yourself a damage from the top of the deck. Like put the top card of your deck into your clock. But then there's a lot of ones now, say, there's a Callie from the Hololive Summer set that says you deal yourself a damage, but it's from the waiting room and not the top of the deck. So it's not like you can go, oh, accelerate, I know what the exact cost of this is. And there's also other accelerate effects that go off at different times. Sometimes they'll go off at the beginning of your clock, not clock phase, I'm sorry, at the beginning of your climax phase, sometimes the beginning of your attack phase. It kind of varies. It's the fact of there are certain keyword effects that, like great performance, in Weiss that have been changed over time. But then you have ones like, once again, great performance, I feel, has been around enough that it doesn't really need an explanation. And then Bond has been around so long that I never questioned that it was just on play from hand type thing. I just never questioned that, because cards like the Kirito and other similar ones, even within SAO itself, because I want to say, like, there was Silica that bonded with a particular Pina and stuff like that. None of those have been changed. Great performance hasn't been changed. To my knowledge, it hasn't. If it has, I'm so sorry. I'm just going based off my own memory. And a lot of Bond effects really haven't changed. It's just the difference that they grab from waiting room instead of searching the deck, that it changes. This is not a Bond. Funny enough, even though it's grabbing a specific character that even you could argue, oh, hey, this is grabbing it because of lore reasons, because he's grabbing his waifu, that's cool. But, there's lore reasons for Fuso and Yamashiro, also cats, because I want to trigger people today. You would think that this would also be considered a Bond effect, because it is also searching a specific named character. But apparently Bond was just reserved for salvaging back from waiting room, which is kind of funky. So when they're like, oh, this is changed now, I'm like, it was? Like, I'm not saying, like obviously we want Bushi to update stuff and make things more clear and understandable for players. 1000% yes, we want that. But I didn't know this was something in contention. I just didn't realize that this was something that needed to be explained. Like I said, like otherwise, if it wasn't for the fact of that wording where it says played and placed on the stage, it doesn't state from hand. This one doesn't state from hand. Because otherwise, placed on the stage could mean when you standby it in. And to my knowledge, this doesn't go off when you play standby stuff, because on-play heal effects don't go off when you standby the character in. I was just always considering them one and the same in terms of timing. But apparently there's a difference. And, I've been educated today. I understand now something that I was unaware of before. And also I didn't know it came up. Like, I didn't realize it was something that was going to come up and actually matter. Like, if that makes any sense. I'm not trying to ask for any additional clarification. I understand what has been changed. I understand it. I just don't know why it mattered. And I'm not going to, please do not feel the need to answer it in the comments or anything of that nature. I always felt this was understood. I always felt that this was, made sense and could be done anyway. But now I know it couldn't. It can be now. And now if someone's tries to bring it up and be like, actually, I can push my non-existent glasses up my nose and be like, actually, it does work. Bond does work now. If you place it off of the New World Modernia, or, another similar card, or even, future effects. It's just also weird that, Bushiroad has tried to stick to something like this. I feel you just need to not have keywords. I feel you just, it feels like they're trying to copy Magic with the 3 or 4 keywords that are in Weiss Schwarz. There's not that many. But then say let's look at the Tia again, where it gets multiple effects. Great performance is a keyword, but this card cannot be chosen by your opponent's effects. Isn't a keyword. They haven't changed it to a keyword yet. That's what I don't get, because Magic has something that's similar. It's called hexproof. Like, that is the keyword for this specific line of text, is called hexproof. And it's something that they can't really do anything to. They can't really change it, I think, in Weiss, because Magic already has the copyrights to that keyword, which is just hilarious to me. I mean, obviously there's so many differences between Magic and Weiss, but the fact that Bushi was like, oh, we're going to put keywords in and we're going to make it so that way, that way it's easy for anyone to understand what the card does without reading a wall of text. I would love for that to be the case, but then stop going to your fucking accelerate abilities, to your alarm abilities, and all this other stuff, and changing how the stuff works, and changing the cost of them, changing the timing of them. Just if you want it to be that way and you want to have uniform keywords, then leave them as they are. That's just what I want to say. Anyway, point being, that's how this works now. You can now play Bond stuff off of New World Modernia in Nikkei, and other future ones I will probably try to keep a mental note of going forward in other particular sets, other things like that. I will try to be as informative on that as possible. But I just wanted to bring that up to you today and kind of showcase that this was something that was updated, and apparently it matters. Go figure. So thank you all very much for watching. It is greatly appreciated. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, all the cringy YouTuber shenanigans. Remember to stay safe and stay based.